not a great game that was, huh? That was ugly performance by the Eagles. Look, as a fan, I don't know what you want to take away from that game other than just how bad this defense is. And like the lack of urgency, lack of tackling, lack of ability to execute. Look, Philadelphia looked like they came into this game expecting to lose, and sometimes you reap the things you sow, right? So this team just came in looking like, hey, we're going to punt this game. Now, listen, I get it. It was really, really hot in this game. It was like 93 in Tampa, and it felt like 105 on the field. My brother actually went to that game, and he told me this is brutal, but he said the one thing he told me when he was watching this game, he said, what the hell do you guys do on defense? Like, what is your defense? This is so bad. And he's 100% right. And he's a Charger fan, by the way. So he knows bad defenses from years past. And he's seen this Philadelphia Eagles unit. And it's horrific. It's a bad unit. And Baker Mayfield, I don't care what anybody tells me anymore. The guy's a good goddamn quarterback, okay? So I know people are like, hey, we're making this guy look like Tom Brady. Well, listen, if you give Baker Mayfield time and you give him a clean pocket and you give him space to throw, he's going to gut you. And Baker Mayfield, he gutted us for 347, 2 touchdowns, right? Like he was an absolute machine today. Mike Evans gave us the business. Godwin gave us the business. This team just could not do anything on the defensive side of the ball. And then on offense, listen, you don't have A.J. Brown. You don't have Devontae Smith. And I think the jury is still out on Jalen Hurts on whether or not he can elevate the team without those guys, right? He still needs those receivers on the outside. And people like to say that Jalen Hurts is a guy who can, carry you to the finish line and be that guy when things are not working out. Well, quite frankly, when he doesn't have all of the players around him, similar to a Brock Purdy, okay? When he doesn't have all his guys out there, he's not the same player. That's just fact. And I know it's a new offense that he's learning. It's a new scheme, new play calling, new terminology, and all that stuff. And he's asked to do a lot more than he's ever done in the past. But, he's just not the same guy without those other players on the outside. Now, did I think he played terrible? No. I don't think he played great. I thought the fumble when we were in the end zone when it could have been a one-score game was horrific. Like, you got no feel in the pocket, bro. You gotta know. Sometimes if you don't see anything open, just tuck it and run it. I don't care if people are going to criticize you for not throwing the ball. If you're a guy who can use your legs when you're in doubt, okay? He escaped one guy, just tuck it and run, get yardage. You're in a position where you need points. So that wasn't great. The offensive play calling I thought was not great either. Again, it kind of goes back to what this team does in the red zone, what this team does when they're down football games. Sirianni in the offensive system, I don't know if it's his fault. I don't know if it's the analytics department. I don't know if it's Kellen Moore's fault. However, there's only one guy you could blame to me in this loss, and that's Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman is the reason you lost this football game, the way your team looks going into the bye week. I believe you could blame Howie Roseman for this one, and we'll kind of get into that after we talk about what's going on defense and all that stuff, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But before we do that, let me introduce the show. This is the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. I am your host, Asif Badi, and I am a fan just like you. And if you're a person who loves the Birds in the Midnight Green and want to talk about the Birds in the Midnight Green and how we can get to our ultimate goal, which is a Lombardi Trophy, I want to create an open dialogue, an open chain of discussion here for other Eagle fans. So please do me a favor if you're down with that message. If you really want to support the Eagles and have conversation about what's best for this football team, hit the subscribe button, shoot this video a thumbs up to help me get out to as many other Eagle fans out there as possible, and leave your comments in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I try to respond to every one of them. Give me your opinions on the Philadelphia Eagles, right? So let's talk about it. Philadelphia, like I said, lost 33-16. Ugly game. We talked about it on defense, how this defense cannot stop a parked car. Last week was a mirage. We held the Saints to 15 points, and they have also come back down to earth a little bit, losing a game to Atlanta. But, this team just really has no answer on defense, okay? What do we have, like 12 missed tackles today? So your fundamentals are shot in terms of how you go after the ball carrier. Like I said, there was no resistance for the Buccaneers offense. My brother was at the game and he told me this defense is awful. Like, I don't know what you guys do here, but they're terrible. And he's right. And yes, I know it was 105 degrees what it felt like on the field. That's no excuses. They were playing in the same conditions as you. Okay. So people like to talk about the elements and all that stuff. Well, every football team plays against the elements like that. So you got to have to do what you got to do. They got 111 yards rushing. Baker Mayfield had 3 touchdowns on the day, threw for 347 yards. Mike Evans had 94 yards of receiving yards. Chris Godwin at 69, right? And the Buccaneers defense, again, Todd Bowles just showing what he does against Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni, and this organization. They ended up coming away with 6 sacks on the day. Did have a sack fumble in red zone territory for us, where it was a really, really big play coming out of the half with Saquon Barkley. We hit a play to Dallas Goedert, and then we try to hit another throw, and sack fumble by Jalen Hurts. Has no feel in the pocket. So that kind of killed the game. And at that point, the game was over. Game was over at that point. They didn't really give Barkley the ball anymore, and they kind of just like, just one of those games. Now, I understand those things happen in the NFL. However, you got to show some damn pride and urgency when there's a modicum of adversity, okay? I know you didn't have Brown. I know you didn't have Smitty. I know you didn't have Lane. But you're a professional football team. You can't look like shit every time you're on the field when something goes wrong, okay? This is the second week in a row. This offense basically only scored 16 points, and we've had plenty of opportunities to score more than that. Jalen Hurts continues to have a turnover problem. And that's something that is going to have to really, really be looked at carefully, because 26 turnovers in the last 20 some odd ball games is awful. Like, that's horrific. And whoever's doing the play calling in Philadelphia, whether it's the analytics department in Philadelphia by Jeffrey Lurie's kid, Kellen Moore's offense, Nick Sirianni, whoever's calling the plays, you need to freaking have a better answer for the blitz. You need to have a better way to get Jalen Hurts easy throws, and stop throwing it to the outside every time you're in trouble. The middle of the field is open. Jalen Hurts wants to throw in the middle of the field, but all these play calls get called toward the outside of the numbers. You keep looking to, go after these spaces on the outside. It's a tough throw and catch, okay? He ain't Aaron Rodgers. He's not putting He's not putting in a pinpoint throw on these types of plays, okay? So this offense needs to wake up, and this defense, I don't blame Vic Fangio. I don't even blame the players. I just don't think these players are good enough. The second and third level, listen, Quinyon Mitchell, probably the best player on our defense right now. That kid's a stud. That boy just knows how to play football. He's athletic. He gets after it. I love what I see from Quinyon Mitchell. That's one of the bright spots you can take from this defense. It's him and Brandon Graham show that these guys still have pride. They're willing to play football. However, Nakobe Dean, every time they showed a missed tackle, he's a part of the play. Zach Bond, Bryce Huff, all these guys are missing easy tackles. And I don't know if it's fundamentals that's going on in Philadelphia with this coaching staff and in practice, or just the lack of players. But you got to know how to tackle. Open field tackles can make this defense a lot better than what it was. There are plenty of times where it could have been a 2-yard gain or a 3-yard gain, and it turns to a 7, 8-yard gain, a first down, because they're missing tackles. I blame Howie Roseman for this one. Like I said, if there's one guy who's going to get the heat for this game, no pun intended, it should be our GM. This defense is awful. Bryce Huff has not shown that he can make an impact play thus far. Your best player on the defensive line is Brandon Graham, who's going to retire at the end of this year. Quinyon Mitchell, yes, you landed that pick, but nobody else on the defense has played great. Zach Bond's okay. Nakobe Dean's okay. Darius Slay, he lets up some plays every now and then. Now, what's the answer to? It's not scheming. You can't scheme these guys into better position now, because, quite frankly, when your defensive line gets pushed around and you can't stop the run and you're getting beat on passing plays, you need better players. And Howie Roseman did not do a good job unloading this defense up with talent. You traded for a guy like Jahan Dotson instead of trying to address the defensive side of the ball, and Jahan Dotson has done nothing, okay? You need better talent. That's really the only answer on the defensive side of the ball. If this defensive line does not get home and it does not play well, you need better talent on the defensive side of the ball, and especially on the second level. Baker Mayfield, any offense that sees the intermediate part of our backfield in the secondary, in the defense, they're licking their chops, okay? Like, against the Saints, it's easy to kind of isolate their offense because they're an over-the-top offense. They're not attacking the middle of the field. That's not what their offense is. Zach Robinson, Atlanta Falcons, they tried to attack the middle of the field a little bit most of the time. And then the Buccaneers, teams like that just have slower wide receivers on the outside. They don't have exceptional speed. They're going to attack the middle of the field, and that's when you're going to see a lot of those big chunk plays. The Packers did it in week 1. Atlanta did it on their, come from behind drive. They tried to get the middle of the field involved. They tried to get like these intermediate zones of the defense, attack that. And then the Buccaneers, they're not going to beat you over the top. They're going to slice and dice you little by little by getting 10, 15-yard chunks. That's what they do. And they did that at an efficient level, and the Eagles just have no answer for it. This Fangio scheme, you can't do much more than what you're doing because you don't have the players. You can't stop the run. Your linebackers have to creep up. The intermediate part of the field becomes open, so your safeties have to drop back so you don't give up plays over the top because you got to be able to tackle back there. And then when you do play well, when you're in a position to make a play, you got to make the play. And you don't have sure tacklers here. Again, I blame that on Howie Roseman. Think about who's on your defense here. You got Darius Slay, who's not a tackler. Isaiah Rodgers, I like his ability. He's not a tackler. Zach Bond, while he can fly around, is he a sure tackler? He hasn't proven it in the NFL. Nakobe Dean keeps missing tackles. He's a good run defender, terrible in pass coverage, not a great tackler. Bryce Huff can't tackle. Nolan Smith can't tackle. Josh Sweat missing tackles, especially on the edge, although he played well against the run. Brandon Graham's our best defender on the defensive line right now. Jalen Carter got beat a bunch of times here. Again, it was really hot, so he had to come off the field, get an IV. Just a lot of plays were left on the field, and you punted this game as a defense. Like, it wasn't – this offense didn't even have the ball for 5 minutes in the first half, and they're down 21-0. Like, that's horrific. And that's not scheme. That's not coaching. That's player pride. That's lack of personnel. Again, I'm not going to kill this team for losing this game because you enter the bye as a big picture performance here. You're going into the bye 2-2, getting some of your playmakers back, hopefully, on the offensive side of the ball. Maybe that's just the spark that you need. But that is really bad film out there. That's bad play. And the lack of pride and urgency that you see at times with this team, it's an inconsistent football team. And a lot of the things that we do as a football team, you could chalk up to what bad teams do. Like, I keep trying to say this. Just on talent alone, we could win 10 games, and that's great. But there's no way this team is making a playoff run. And it's so unfortunate because the NFC is so weak. Like, you're never winning the turnover battle. You're not winning time of possession. You keep getting dumb penalties. You can't stop the run. And then in pass coverage, you can't tackle when you are in the position to make a play, or you're giving up big chunks of yardage every time the ball's in the air. So it's a bad unit on the defensive side of the ball. And then on the offensive side of the ball, it's just been very disappointing. It's been very slow. Now, I'm going to wait till after the bye week to really start being critical of this offense because, like I said, it's a new offense, new scheme, new terminology, and you don't play preseason football. So this month and a half that you have, this is the time for you to get this offense right. And I thought Jalen Hurts, again, like I said before, I thought he played okay considering what he had to work with the play calling and the situation before he even passed gas. He's down 21-0, and all of a sudden you can't run the ball as much as you would like to and all that stuff, right? So just an overall bad day, bad film. Is it throwaway tape? Maybe. I don't think so, though. I think this game highlighted a lot of problems that Philadelphia has, and it needs to be addressed. And I don't know how you address it other than getting better personnel. And quite frankly, I don't really see anybody out there that's going to trade to Philadelphia. Okay. So this is a very, very type of game. That's why I'm not too angry about this one. It's kind of expected. Tampa Bay came off a really bad loss against the Broncos. You knew they were going to come in focused. And then Philadelphia came off a really, really big win against the Saints, at least in their standard of play for the past, eight some odd games that they've seen the field. So it was a big game for them, a little bit of a letdown. And quite frankly, playing in 105-degree weather, I think they were just saying, like, listen, I am not trying to kill myself over a week 4 game here, which I get it, but holy shit. Show some fucking pride, man. Like, you gotta show some better pride than that, especially on the defensive side of the ball. No resistance at all. And, again, hopefully we could just chalk it up to bad film, bad loss, but we got Cleveland after the bye, okay? And maybe, just maybe, that helps the defensive side of the ball out because Deshaun Watson has not been great, but that's a tough defense you got to play against. And this offense just is not hitting on any cylinder at all. Jalen Hurts looks, too cool for school at times, especially when you get into the red zone. So we'll see. We'll kind of break that game down maybe in another episode. But for now, kudos to the Bucs. They're a good football team. Baker Mayfield's a good quarterback, and he showed it on display today. And they're for real, okay? And this is a team, the Eagles. The Buccaneers are a team that you're going to have to go through if you really want to get to a Lombardi trophy, okay? So you better find a damn answer against Todd Bowles because so far, Todd Bowles and this Buccaneers team has been your daddy. It's been your daddy. The last 4 games, they're 3-1 against us, and they've kicked our ass in those 3 wins. So, it's definitely going to be a work in progress here in Philadelphia. So we shall see. But that's really all I got in terms of this game. Not much more to cover. If you have any ideas, any opinions, please leave them in the comments section below. Shoot the video a thumbs up. And, that's all I got. That's that. There's really not much else to say about this game. Hey. Thank you so much for watching the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. If you want to continue to support the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. Also, check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Riding the Bench Eagles Pod. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're on there. Thank you so much for listening, and please join us next time here at the Riding the Bench Eagles Podcast.